It's time again for another installment of the basics, and as you can see, the risk board is back out, which means I have some more strategy for you. And today I want to talk about something called crossing over. And this is where you go from one continent to another. And I'll show you how crossing over works and why and when you should do it in the game. Now, on previous episodes, I've talked about how you can cross over between continents, as if you notice on your risk board, a lot of the continents are joined with these lines. Basically, that means you can go from one continent to the next at certain points on the map. If you notice, South America is connected to Africa. North America is not only connected to Europe, but that line carries over to this end of the map and connects to Asia. Lower part of Asia is connected to the Australian region. Africa, believe it or not, you can do a quick crossover to the Middle East, and Africa and the Middle East to Europe. Crossing over does have its advantages, but you really need to pick your spots when you're doing this in the game. And I've simulated a 3-player game. I've only populated the map where most of the crossover action is going to happen. The first one being South America to Africa. Now you might be playing, you might be halfway through your game, you're building up some forces, and the reason why you would cross over is because you've noticed either a weak spot with your opponent's forces, or maybe he's not as built up in some areas. So what you would do if you had a superior attack force sitting in your territory next to the crossover, you'd want to try and go in and whittle away as quickly as you can at the lower amount of forces he has there. Maybe you're trying to reinforce your 1 or 2 territories that you are barely holding on to, or you're trying to find a quick way to come up with an invasion to catch him off guard. This strategy is called crossing over, but it's also dependent on rolls of the dice. A true crossover doesn't work really well if you have very crap luck with the dice and you're rolling low numbers. You will whittle away your own forces, so you have to pick your spots. Another example being North America to Europe, and I've faced this scenario many times in Risk where I've built up a lot of forces and I've seen a weak spot in Europe, say like Iceland or Great Britain, where maybe my opponent only has 2 armies or 3 armies, and I'm thinking, well, I've got a 5er sitting there, I can start rolling the dice and make inroads on Europe and maybe connect with something else or try to take it over. Sometimes it does work, but you also have to take into account while you're doing this, your third opponent, which in this case are the gray pieces, he's going to be either looking to do the same or clean up what's left. You are going to lose some forces no matter how you cross over. And with a third opponent in the game, he might sit back and bide his time and then move in and just wipe out whatever's left from that battle, depending on how the rolls of the dice go. Also, when you're crossing over, it has to be very strategic. You just don't want to go for a worthless area. So for example, as I've mentioned before, if I had most of Asia taken over and I had decent forces, I would not then press into Australia. Australia, in terms of the map, is a dead end. Once you're in there, you can't go anywhere but back out. You can populate it. You're either defending or fighting your way out of Australia. Whereas with Asia, you can jump off into Africa, Australia, North America, Europe. Same with Europe. You can jump off into anything else. Even the American continents have at least 2 jump-off points. So crossing over is very tricky. And again, it's not so much skill as it is rolls of the dice. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from trying this strategy, because you should. It does work if you can pull it off. Just be prepared when you're in a multiplayer game. If your dice rolls don't go that well, you're going to have that other guy sitting back and going, "Excellent." So it could turn out very bad for you. Have a great day, everybody.